Language is only capable of communicating on one level at a time. Yet the fall was a simultaneous, multi-leveled occurrence. While you were clothing yourself with increasing layers of material identification, you were also becoming more and more fragmented within yourself. As you began to bring into your relationships a sense of identity based on previous relationships, you were not only lessening your own presence and effectiveness in current relationships, you were also creating separation within yourself. None of your past experiences were comprehensive enough to fully identify with in the present moment. Yet you began to rely on them for your understanding of and approach to the present moment. Thus the whole process of the fall was accomplished by a corresponding fragmentation of your sense of identity, your very sense of self. By the time of the physical Garden of Eden, you were already perceiving yourself to be more than one. The sexual process came into play in order to produce physical projections within which these apparently separate entities you had split yourself into could take form. Even to this day, these apparently separate beings are but your own fragmented reflections. In the fallen state, you perceive them as separate and distinct. Yet, despite all this talk of a fall and original sin, you are not held prisoner by events that transpired in the dim reaches of your collective memory. You are not born into sin. You are born daily into the presence of God. Yet, daily, you reenact the original foolishness that is recorded in all your ancient chronicles. Daily, you commit original sin. Daily, you eat of the forbidden fruit, and it is from moment to moment that you keep yourself imprisoned by allowing a dubious rational thought process to come between you and your immediate sensing of God's will. This was the hesitation that led to your initial fall from grace, and it is the same hesitation that keeps you now in a fallen state. There should rightly be no interval between the determination of the need to take action and the implementation of that action. This rational interference is what caused you to stumble in your primal dance of trust with God. You are now, in effect, sleeping under the influence of what could almost be seen as a spell, an illusion that prevents you from experiencing the clarity of perception that is your natural birthright. Our mission to this planet is to awaken you from sleep by whatever means necessary. Chapter 3, The Shadow of Future Creation. Since the first breath of God at the beginning of all the worlds, it was preordained that creation would exist, within a rhythm of expansion and contraction. Eventually there would come a time when the physical universe would stop expanding and begin to contract. The Hindus refer to this process as the inbreathing and outbreathing of Brahma, the process through which God breathes out all of creation and then breathes it all back in again. At this point in linear time, we are very close to the middle of the cycle, soon to reach the exact midpoint between the out-breath and the in-breath of God. The universe began to reach this midpoint as unicellular organisms were emerging on the earth. But the exact midpoint is yet to be attained. It will coincide with what has come to be called the second coming of Christ. When any vibrational system reverses the momentum of its direction, as a pendulum does at the uppermost point of its swing, there is a moment of complete rest before it resumes its movement in the opposite direction. Since rest, or the total cessation of movement, constitutes the opposite of time, there is at the precise moment of its occurrence a micro-interval of non-time, a moment of eternity. This is the same interval of non-time that occurs many times each second as the atoms of the physical world vibrate back and forth. This is an opening into the Nagwal, a doorway into the presence from which all life energy springs. What happens when a universe stops expanding and begins contracting? What happens when an entire cosmos reaches the exact point of directional change and comes to a moment of absolute rest. You will have the opportunity to see for yourself very soon, for this event lies just before you in linear time. It will provide for an opening for the emergence of something incomprehensible. Before we touch upon the nature of this occurrence and its implications for human beings, let us consider, however briefly, something of your nature as you existed prior to the fall. The entire biological history of this planet has been but the shadow cast in matter by your approach. It is the way that rocks and water and air have begun to respond to our presence. For you are life itself. You are that which lies beyond all duality, beyond all materializing tendencies, beyond all restraints of time and space. Your consciousness is both infinite and eternal. It can dwell in the limitations of matter and perceive through whatever filtering systems you so choose, but in healthy function, it is not bound or limited by those systems. Rather, it uses them as instruments of perception, exploration, and adventure. Outside of time and space, you are one with the Creator, the All that is, the Source. But when your consciousness moves within the context of a manifest universe, you become the Son, the Christ. In essence, you are the relationship between spirit and matter, the mediator, the bridge, the means through which the Creator relates to creation. You are life as it relates to planet Earth, eternity as it relates to time, the infinite as it relates to the finite. Though you presently experience yourself as a separate and fragmented species, you are in fact a single unified being, sharing the full consciousness of the Creator. You are brought into living, focused expression when you are inside of creation, by the manner in which time and space, matter and energy, sea and stone, react to your presence. As the Christ, as the only begotten consciousness of the Father, you have been given a number of remarkable qualities. You are able to expand and contract in accordance with the focus of your attention. You are large enough to encompass all of creation, yet small enough to climb inside. Your Father Creator also premeets creation, but in a different way. In His vastness, He surrounds creation. His being saturates the physical universe, all the stars, the sun, the planets in your solar system, the distant galaxies. But He relies on you for His focus. You are His specific attention. As the focus of the Creator's attention, you have been roaming around inside of creation for billions of years, expanding and contracting, drifting in and out of this galaxy, this star system, that star system. Everywhere you go, you see the matter that your Father has created. You observe the many wonderful forms it takes, the mighty suns, the red giants, the white dwarfs, the vast spiraling galaxies, the quasars, the black holes, the white holes. You watch the incredible contortions of time and space that take place in the various gravitational fields you pass through. You note the planets, moons, asteroids, and comets circling within each star system you visit. You drift around, the Father's representative, the Father's attention, and you enjoy the worlds that have been brought into being. But all these worlds are physical. They are all made of matter. They are made of the bonded energy attention of the Father. They have a certain substance, a certain solidity that you as spirit lack. You realize that this is their limitation. You realize that they are defined and specified in ways that you are not defined and specified. Yet something about them intrigues you. By and by you get an idea. You begin to wonder if you might not just possibly, somehow or another, clothe yourself in matter and construct for yourself a physical body that you could then travel around in, perceiving matter from the same perspective with which matter perceives herself.